This week on TGC News, flip-up sights, NFA Made easy, and the Box Suppressor Returns. Whether you're a noob or an expert, the Essentials Guide and targets from Refactor Tactical offer you a step-by-step method to taking your shooting to the next level. Packed with page after page of drills and tips, you might find yourself becoming a badass in no time. To get yourself a 10% discount on your entire order, use the code TGC10 over at refactortactical.com. Welcome back to another episode of TGC News, the only gun news show that covers things you actually care about. My name, as always, is Jon Patton, and TGC is about to hit 75,000 subscribers on YouTube. A very big milestone in my opinion, considering we are kind of unlike just about every other gun video outlet out there. If you aren't subscribed, do me a favor, pause the video, hit subscribe, and on YouTube, ring that bell next to the subscribe button to make sure that you get notified every time a new video comes out on TGC. Now, this week's first story comes to us from Michigan. It's about a company called Flipsight. I know a lot of you out there are pumped about optics on handguns like RMRs and loophole delta points, but also like the option of just using normal sights as well. This takes a little from column A and a little from column B. And, well, just look at it. That's the Flipsight. Long story short, it's a set of replacement sights for your pistol that also contains something interesting in the rear. A clear, like, plate/sheet thing, lens they're calling it, that has a reticle on it. Essentially, it's a flip-up red dot, and it's not electronic, it doesn't have a frame around it, and it's very unique. It appears as though the flip-up portion is actually spring-loaded and can be activated with just a push of a button on the back of the rear sight. To be honest, I don't quite understand why this thing even exists. It's a neat concept, but you can't zero the thing. There's no adjustment in that reticle, so how can you count on it for accurate shots? I mean, sure, there is definitely such a thing as point shooting when you're up close, but that requires just as much practice as it does to use a gun with an optic on it, right? I don't see the benefit from that portion of it. I do actually really like the frameless design of the lens. Having a wider field of view is really good in all situations. However, what if the lighting conditions won't allow you to see the reticle? Then what? I suppose you could kind of transition to the included night sights, but the rear is actually obscured by the flip-up portion of the lens. I really want to like this thing. I love people that think outside the box, but this just kind of seems unfinished. And perhaps that's true because they're currently looking to raise money on Indiegogo. Yeah, I know. Everybody groans when they hear that kind of stuff. Their goal is listed at $87,000 to pay for things like a CNC machine, a 3D printer, hardware and software upgrades for computers, and essentially everything else for running a functioning business. This is my biggest beef with Flipsight right now, and a lot of other companies that crowdfund this way. The company has no track record or credibility, yet you expect people to pay $100 for a set of unfinished sights. Come on, stop trying to make people fund your business and pay for it yourself. Then, if the product sucked, it's on your back, not on the backs of the great or gullible, depending on your views, people that helped you get there. I mean, there's companies in the gun industry that did this very well. Look at Blue Alpha Gear. They did a great job with a crowdfunding project. What do you guys think? Is the Flipsight legit, or is it destined to fail? Let me know down in the comments. And in Ban the ATF news, SilencerShop has really moved the chains forward yet again. First, they brought out their kiosks at gun stores all over the country to make it easier for people to submit paperwork, and dealing with ATF 481F became a lot more simple then. They have an app to take photos. You can get your fingerprints at the kiosk and combine that with their single-shot truss, and suddenly getting a suppressor isn't nearly as daunting as before. The single-shot truss is particularly interesting to me, as it's essentially a way to not deal with getting a bunch of people's photos and fingerprints every time you buy an NFA item. There's a link if you want more info on that. The thing that struck me big this week is that they've upped the ante again. Previously, if you were going to submit a Form 1 to make your own SBR or other NFA like a short barrel shotgun or even your own suppressor, you had to do everything by hand. Fingerprints, photos, Clio notification, etc., all the trust stuff, all by hand. It's kind of a pain in the rear. Well, SilencerShop has essentially taken their super easy process for suppressors and updated it for Form 1s. Assuming your photo and fingerprints are in the system, you log into the website, buy a tax stamp, use one of their trusts or your own, and then just check out. You then get an email, log back in, fill out all the relevant info like overall length, caliber, serial number, etc. that would be required for a Form 1. And once you do that, you submit it and they take care of the rest. They mail everything to the right places, then notify the Clio for you, and you just sit back and wait for the tax stamp to come in. They've given us a shortcut to dealing with ATF nonsense. Hallelujah. This is awesome. You can also actually create a list of Form 1 items that you want to submit to be used at a later date. That means you can spend an afternoon like logging in a bunch of stuff and then just pick it from a drop-down menu when you're ready to grab another tax stamp. This is the kind of stuff the gun industry needs. We don't need another company to mill Glock slides. We need companies that come up with ways to make it easier for the consumer. And speaking of that, SilencerShop again just announced a money-back guarantee. So basically, if you buy a can and your stamp comes in and you really aren't happy with it, they will refund your money 100%, including the tax stamp. And it's retroactive back to May 1st, so if you bought a can then and going forward, the guarantee applies. Talk about moving the industry forward. This is incredibly smart. Way to go, SilencerShop. Seriously. It's time for a little update for you guys on a story we covered back in January. Some of you may remember the Arion compact ported suppressor, or as some of you may remember, a box of aluminum pretending to be a silencer. I leaned into them pretty hard for the design, or lack thereof, and the pricing especially. When that episode aired, the pricing was listed at $1,500. It's now $875, but for a pistol can, that's just really, really dumb. Well, fast forward to recent times, and my buddy Graham Bates did a follow-up video with the owner of Arion, as well as some shooting of the CPS. Here's what I gathered from the video. They're still bragging about using a Nielsen device, which is a totally normal thing and shouldn't be bragged about. They have incredibly tight tolerances and solid build quality, but the can still has no place in the market. It's definitely small at a mere 3.5 inches, but who is this for? They admitted themselves that it's not quiet, so is the trade-off of sound versus size worth it? I also talked back in January about them bragging about it being holsterable, and they claim they're now working with Blade Tech to make something that works. It'll be interesting to see if that actually works or ever comes to be. You know, I have to ask myself sometimes, am I being a curmudgeon about this? Am I crapping on something that is truly innovation and I'm blinded by what appear to be dumb ideas on the surface? In this case, I think the core ideas of tight tolerances, lots of volume for gases, and small size are great, but are they true innovation? I'm going to have to let you guys weigh in on that. Our Guntuber this week caught my eye specifically for one main reason: quality. There are some great channels coming out these days that are absolutely crushing it with video quality, and Greenlight Shooting is just one example. Let's take a look.
What's up guys, Chad here with Greenlight Shooting and welcome to this new video. Today we are talking about handguards. These fancy handguards are made by Unique ARs. They're a company out of Idaho because it almost looks like just a normal handguard from far away, but the closer up you get to it, you can start to see these really cool details that just set it apart. So kind of the industry standard is the Howard Light impact sport. And those are like 35 bucks online or up to 50 bucks in stores. I've seen them.
Now, recently I know Chad has been kind of switching things up with the video topics and style, but I know a lot of you will truly appreciate the way he presents his reviews. I see comments on this show every week of other channels that may have really solid info, but they are epically boring to watch and look like they might have been filmed on a potato. This is not that. Head over to go subscribe to Greenlight Shooting via the link in the description, and if you know of a channel that needs to be featured, post that in the comments or shoot me a message via theguncollective.com. Savoir Leather offers some of the finest handmade holsters crafted right here in the USA. Whether you carry inside or outside the waistband, whether you want an extra mag or maybe some extra flair, they have what you need. To get free shipping on your order, use the code TGC1 at savoirleather.com. And it's back, guys. We've got a great friendly fire question this week sent in on the TGC Facebook page from a gentleman named Jacob Lucas. He asks, if and when the Hearing Protection Act passes, do you think the price of suppressors will go up or down? Now, I've seen this question asked a ton of times. I've had people ask me in person. I've had people ask online. The simple fact is the prices will not drop overnight. We may see companies popping up everywhere overnight, but prices will stay the same initially until stock starts to get low, and then we may even see a pricing increase until stock levels return. It's not going to be until after we see that first big wave that we're going to see pricing start to really drop. Think of it like 22 long rifle ammo. Before the big shortage, you could buy a box for like $3 for 50 rounds, right? Now that same box is $5 to $6 at least. The gun industry is not immune to the simple concept of supply and demand. If the supply is low and demand is high, the price goes up. If the opposite is true, then the price goes down. My friendly fire question to you guys this week, if you could own any NFA item that was not belt-fed, what would it be? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want your question answered right here on the show, go over to theguncollective.com and send it to me. And unfortunately, that is it, guys. You know what to do. You like the video, you share it with your friends, you get subscribed. If you hated it, let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you guys all for watching. Switched it up.
The shirts worn in today's episode of TGC News were provided by Patriot Patch Company. Click the link in the description to learn more.